Good evening, Galaxy fans. Good evening, Galaxy fans. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Mike Gray. I cover the Galaxy and LAFC for the Striker. Here tonight to join me to talk about all things Galaxy and El Trafico is my faithful co-host, my good buddy Alex Ruiz. Alex, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How you doing, Mike?
How am I doing? Who knows? We got a long night ahead of us. The vibes are good. Our new LAFC beat writer Justin Ruderman, he'll be joining us shortly. We're also going to have Chandrima, so I'm excited. But first, we got to do it. We got to talk about the game in DC, and it wasn't a lot of fun. The Galaxy limped to a 3-0 defeat over the weekend at a rainy Audi Field. Alex, I got to tell you, it was a pain in the ass covering that game because I tell you what, first of all, when I go to sleep, I like to use these soothing rain kind of sounds, like just it's like a soundtrack. And man, the first half of that game, you just had the pouring rain just on the microphone. It was not fun. But the Galaxy were doing good through 70 minutes. They did a good job of blanketing Benteke, really preventing DC from creating anything really clear cut. And then it all fell apart, Alex.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of been the season all year, for being honest. Galaxy team playing pretty well at a decent level for 75 minutes, 70 minutes, right? 3/4 of the way there, and then in that final, fourth, in that 20-minute time span, just DC just takes the game away, and that's what it's been like for a lot of these losses for the LA Galaxy, where they can do all the right things, but in those moments, in small moments of time, to be honest, where they do wrong, those teams just capitalize on them. And again, DC did that. Benteke had a goal and an assist. Unfortunate for Jonathan Bond to get caught there on that first goal where he's just, doesn't clear the ball out initially and try to boot it away. I think, the Galaxy style of, playing out of the bag, being in possession, playing on the ground there, that's where you can kind of see, like, it can bear its fruit at times, but also, keeping that play style also has its negatives there. And I think, Bond initially should have just booted it out. This is going to be a tough game. Obviously, the weather conditions, like you said, weren't the greatest, and it was going to be a sloppy game from the start when I, saw it was raining and it was windy. But I thought, that goal was definitely avoidable. And then again, Benteke just doing his thing where he's taking up all the gravity, all the space. Galaxy defenders are too focused on him. Easy pass for Dahomey. Again, another good finish past Bond. And then finally, that third goal, right? Good build up by DC. Galaxy right here wasting all their energy trying to get one back, trying to at least salvage something because, this road trip. 2 games, no points. That's not what you want, especially considering the team standings in the tables. But, they're tired. They can't, cover the ground. DC just 1-2 passing here and there. They get from their half of the field to the Galaxy's box. Jonathan Bond tries to, get the ball out of the 6-yard box, his own 6-yard box, but, not able to handle the ball there. Click with the rebound and, scores it away. So definitely a very tough game for the Galaxy considering those 70 minutes were pretty good. Benteke literally did not do anything for that amount of time, and I thought it was going to be a really good performance to take away. Just 1 point on the road would have been fine, especially considering how dominant Benteke is. But obviously, this Galaxy team just self-inflicted wounds, and it led to them crumbling.
Yeah, if you're the Galaxy, you probably list all the confounding variables, the rain, the East Coast trip, second game in a week, the individual mistakes by Bond, and perhaps maybe you wipe your hands clean. But I don't know, Alex. We're almost at the halfway point of the season, and it's like you said at the beginning of the show. We're seeing we're seeing a pattern of play over and over again with the Galaxy. And I wrote about this in a preview for the Striker for El Trafico that's coming out soon. Vanny's very good at diagnosing problems after the game. Where he makes his money is being able to figure out these problems ahead of time. And we've said it several times. We both have a lot of faith in Vanny, and he's highly regarded as a coach. But some of these explanations, admittedly to me at least, they're starting to feel a little long-winded. I mean, anyone can tell you what happened afterwards, but with the Galaxy, they're dead last, and this isn't. We're past hypotheticals. They need to start getting results, and for Vanny, he needs to start finding solutions to these problems.
Yeah, you hit it on the nail there, Mike. I mean, every time we talk to Greg, he does a really good, analysis, kind of what went wrong, and obviously, most of the time, it's kind of just like, uh, these little things, right? These little mistakes that become bigger, right? When you get yourself in a little wound, right? But you keep scabbing at it, it never heals. Kind of like that. That's what happens with the Galaxy, to be honest. And look, when I look at this team and I kind of assess why they're here, I just feel mentally they're just not there. Football wise, their individual skill, the players that they have, second highest payroll in the league. This is a team that isn't lacking talent or lacking players. Obviously, we've talked about the issues at winger. They, had Douglas Costa being injured and, being unable to get some transfer targets in the winter. But nonetheless, this team has still got a decent foundation. And the fact that a lot of their mental mistakes, little mental errors, these little things like giving the ball away in bad positions or poor positioning or, these little mistakes, other teams are just finding ways to really make it hurt, like really badly. I tweeted something during the game, like, the good teams can kind of get away with it at times, but the Galaxy aren't one of those good teams. And every time that something happens, they get punished for it, and they get punished for it quickly. So if I'm looking at this team, I think just mentally, it's not that they're checked out, but just on the pitch in those high pressure situations and those moments where you need to make a split decision, this team just doesn't make the right choice, whether that's in possession, defending, etc.
Something's just missing from this team, isn't it? And that's where we don't want to, go too far and become armchair quarterbacks. We don't get to see what Vanny sees every day out in the field. But, it's not the first time I've asked myself this season, who's the danger, who's the hard man on the Galaxy? Who's the enforcer? Who's the guy who, when the Galaxy play to 90% of their potential, or they're only putting in 90%, who's the guy that in the locker room is, and I'm not advocating for anything, who's the dude throwing the trash can around and pounding his fist into the wall and threatening to kill the next guy that plays a bad pass or something, like, I mean, again, I know that sounds a little extreme, but like when you're at that level, you need that. And I tell you, like, I don't want to tell Vanny that he's got to, do anything, but I mean, again, who are the enforcers on this squad? Who are the people that ensure that the competitive edge is always there? I don't know. And when I hear Vanny, and there was a promotional thing the Galaxy put out the other day, and they're supposed to be hyping themselves up before the game, and I see this one thing with Vanny, and he's almost soft-spoken, and it's like, wait a minute, this is the locker room before the game. You got to be pounding the table and getting your guys hyped up, and it's like you said, Alex, something's missing, and maybe we'll find out a little bit more about the squad after Tuesday. But for now, question marks. Moving on, something a bit more pleasant. MLS, they're actually expanding to San Diego, which is pretty cool. Sadly, our pod was canceled on short notice last week, so we didn't get to really talk about it. But for me, it's really exciting. I've got a few talking points to really just sort of go over. The first, if you haven't been to Snapchat, this is pretty amazing. My question ahead of time was whether or not the Snapdragon would work as a MLS 3.0, just soccer specific stadium. Now that I've been there, I mean it's really neat. It's like a mini football stadium. Now they didn't go nuts with every nook and cranny of the place, which of course is understandable because it's a college football stadium. It's not just a couple billionaires, right? But it's got everything you need. Perfect sight lines. It's got lots of local catering, lots of local food. It's got lots of premium spaces, enough premium spaces, by the way. And for me, it's something that I think is going to work just fine. But give me 2 seconds because look who just showed up.
Sorry, am I late?
Justin, let me introduce Justin first. I got two of these people. I don't know who to introduce first, but all right. He is our new LAFC beat writer for the Striker. He's a good dude. I'm glad he's on board. Say hello to Justin Ruderman, everybody.
How's it going, guys? Good to be on here. Talk a little bit of El Trafico. I think it'll be a very tomorrow.
Oh yeah, indeed. And before we get to that, Chandrima, this is our other guest for tonight. She's a researcher for the CBS Galazzo Sports Network. She's also the LAFC beat writer for the Sporting Tribune. Please say hi to my good friend Chandrima.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, before we go any further, I feel like I need to right a wrong from last year. We invited Chandrima onto our Twitter spaces for the El Trafico. We had a snafu, and our dude who was actually managing the Twitter space, he left right beforehand, and as a result, we didn't call Chandrima up during the whole like hour, and rightfully so, we screwed up. And I told her, which was like maybe like 6, 8 months ago, I was like, I'm gonna get a pod, and once I get the pod, I will apologize to you live on air. So, on behalf of the striker, I do apologize for that. And so,
It was unnecessary, Mike. Thank you. Thank you.
hey, I got that out of the way. So now let's move on. We were talking about MLS San Diego and just sort of the pros and cons. I was about to segue to the next point, which is all right, guys. I'll start with Justin and Jim, and then finally Alex. Do you think that this new MLS San Diego franchise is a threat to the LA teams?
Well, I mean, a threat in terms of competition or in terms of fan base? I mean, definitely in terms of fan base because, there's a lot of LAFC fans and I'm sure Galaxy fans as well that are from San Diego, and they're going to have a decision to make of whether they stick with their team or whether they become, San Diego call it fans. And so, yeah, I think as far as that, definitely there will. As far as on the field, I expect competition as well because you don't spend $500 million on a franchise and then allow it to be bad. So yeah, I expect. I hope there will be a lot of not only in Southern California but across California, including the earthquakes. So hopefully we can see that.
Well said, Chandrima.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that a little bit. I welcome the competition. Actually, I think it would be fantastic. And I do believe Southern California has one of the largest potential soccer fan bases and hotbeds in this country. So more than enough room for a team out there. I think NWSL has shown that. And I actually do think another rival would be great to introduce into the mix. I love what that brings. I love the idea of San Diego finally getting their own professional team. So for the men.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that San Diego, you have another market in California. Again, this is one of the biggest economies. State by itself, California could be one of the biggest economies in the world, right? Population of around 40 million. So there's gonna be plenty of, options for fans to choose who they want to root for. Obviously, the San Diego loyal there. They've been there for some time, and this MLS team is the big new shiny toy. So I think it's going to be really great, whether that's between the San Diego fans trying to choose who to their allegiances to, or against the other LA clubs, San Jose as well. Again, I think it's just great. Again, this is where a lot of soccer players in this country are developed, where they're nurtured and where they're grown. So it makes sense to have a lot more teams in this state. So I'm not surprised, and I think it'll be nice to have another team down south.
Alex, I live in Riverside. I got to move, but I live in Riverside. I'm telling you, a few years ago, I could just breeze on the 91, get to the Home Depot Center or whatever, and I'd be fine. It takes me just as much time to get to Snapdragon as it does to get to Dignity, and maybe a little bit more to get to the bank. So, yeah, if I mean Riverside used to be a hotbed of Galaxy fans, maybe 5, 10 years ago. That's probably the first place that got taken over by LAFC. Uh, yeah, the Galaxy are right now. They're not at a place where they need to hold on to every fan they can get. So I think they're the ones that are going to be the most threatened. LAFC already have a significant and established fan base in downtown LA and the surrounding areas. So maybe it's not as bad for them. But, the more soccer, the better. Although I do got to say California is getting super saturated with soccer. But that's okay. The World Cup will probably change that a little bit. But I had a narrative about San Diego that I wanted to maybe push a little bit more on. But dude, it's almost 6:50, so we got to get to El Trafico tomorrow. The Galaxy will play LAFC at BMO Stadium, 7:30. I'm sure we'll all get there about 5 minutes beforehand, so that's awesome consistency. Uh, these are two different teams on completely different sides of the spectrum. Galaxy are dead last. LAFC are first in the West. They're heavy favorites to win the CCL versus Lyon. And you have two teams with completely different strategies. The Galaxy have basically played their strongest starting lineup. They did that versus Seattle. And then on the other hand, LAFC basically, it's not even a rotated squad. They played the LAFC 2 squad and they were successful. So, first of all, Justin, you've got this LAFC team that are 180 minutes away from CCL glory. But you got the Galaxy and you got this Open Cup match. Do they repeat what they did versus Monterrey, or is it something a little different?
I think it'll be somewhere in the middle, but I lean more towards of a heavily rotated team. Just the fact that, yeah, as UCL is on the horizon, that is the focus, and LAFC have already dealing with a few injuries, especially in that back line. Unfit center back at the moment. Kellen Acosta in midfield is also struggling with some injuries. So I think it's a case of you're more worried about these that you have a fully fit team heading into rather than you are really about winning the game against Galaxy. And I think it's probably the first time in history where LAFC are maybe looking past Trafico onto the next match. Of course, there is a large amount of rest, a full 8 days before the Leon match, so maybe that will be sufficient his players to recover. But I don't about that. I think it's about that a Carlos Vela, a Denny Bouanga doesn't get hurt prior to the biggest game arguably in club history.
Yeah, this is also in my preview, but yeah, the for me, El Trafico is becoming a bit stale. We'll talk about it a little later, but Alex, what do you think that the Galaxy need to do specifically versus LAFC if they're going to be successful?
Yeah, just limit the errors, limit the mental mistakes, like we talked about, earlier. DC in that match, right? Jonathan Bond having that little mistake, and boom, the floodgates open for DC United. And again, against LAFC earlier last month, we saw that Gaston Bergman giving the ball away in the middle field leads to Carlos Vela's goal. Sega Koulibaly unable to control the ball and passes it, right into the opposition, and that leads to a goal. Did that twice. So I think this team just really needs to limit their mistakes. And again, LAFC are going to let the Galaxy have possession. They did that in the last game, and this Galaxy team is going to mess up. They're in the bottom of the standings for a reason. It's because they're as long as they try to play as a possession team, they're always going to have a mistake that just kills them. And I think LAFC are probably going to approach the game like that. They're going to let the Galaxy, I guess in a way, play themselves, wait for that mistake to pounce. And again, when you have players like, like Apoku, Vela, Buanga, Buke, guys who can get on the counter and, expose the Galaxy defense, which has been a really poor transition all season long. I think there's a lot there that Vanny needs to preach and emphasize heading into this game. So I think this needs to be a match where the Galaxy need to mature on that defensive end and also just being a little bit more direct at times. I understand Vanny wants to play and insert his philosophy of possession football, but at times you kind of need to break that mold to really, have that an extra dynamic, another dimension. And I think this Galaxy team needs to find that. And again, we haven't seen any goals on the road in so long for the LA Galaxy, so their attacking force needs to step up. Whether that's Chicharito, Tyler Boyd, Melvin Rodriguez, whoever starts on the wing, they need to really show up because again, this is a game that is right now, in my opinion, is the biggest of the season.
Agreed. Justin, let me hit you with the same question. What's the one thing that if LAFC just do, you can expect to see them walk away with 3 points?
They'll walk away with 3 points. It's about what the players that show the pitch for me because if it's an LAFC 2 team, then Galaxy are coming out as big favorites in the game, which obviously great to say the standings, but it is just the case, and it would be a disaster for Galaxy really, if that happens, it's a lose-lose scenario for Galaxy because it's if they end up winning the game, it's expected, and if they lose the game, things worse if that's possible. Yeah, I think it's about that, but yeah, I think LAFC have a little bit of flexibility in that front line, especially to maybe start a Buke, start a Bogush, and put a little on Galaxy. And as Alex is saying, if you give possession and then you have like Bogush and Buke starting, and you have their pressing ability on the pitch, you can force Galaxy and win the game that way.
Yeah, Chandrima, let me hit you up with this because the Galaxy always play well during El Traficos. But looking at the big picture here, is this a scenario where if the Galaxy win, get all 3 points, that the season's suddenly going to turn around? Because, I mean, just a minute ago, he was bringing up, for both teams, the El Trafico, just the rivalry, it's being really put to the side. I almost am calling this like an acoustic El Trafico because you're taking all the riffraff and all of the thrills and the extras, and you're just pushing it all to the side, and it's just really just the bare essentials. Like the Galaxy need a win, they need to figure shit out, and then you have LAFC who, for me, it's almost as if they're protecting their legacy a little bit. They're doing what they need to do to put a competitive team out there and get all 3 points. But at the same time, they've got an eye on the bigger prize. So that was a long-winded thing, Chandrima. But I guess what I'm trying to say is if the Galaxy win this game, if the Galaxy win this game, are they for real now? Or is it just,
I think the Galaxy, like I was just writing this in my own preview, the Galaxy are made out of individuals with heavy talent, right? And they haven't quite gelled together. Whereas LAFC, also, yes, they're heavy on the talent, but they put some of that aside and they sacrifice individuality for team gains. And I think that Galaxy haven't learned how to do that just yet. So as soon as they figure it out, and I do think it's going to happen in a magical moment, it could be this El Trafico because they do put everything out there on the pitch. As ugly as it can get, and it usually does, in these matches. I think it could happen. I don't know. I'm still betting on LAFC to do this because I really do think that Steve is coming at this not so much like I'm gonna pass and move on, but I really think he's thinking I can get the 3.
Steve is sneaky.
He's very smart and. Yeah, I think he definitely plays chess. I bet
I used to call him the mad scientist last year because you could tell like he's just thinking at a faster level and all this, but he didn't have that smoothness. Bruce Arena, Greg Vanny, these guys are smooth.
Huh?
hey, this was last year. Now he's far more confident. I like this new guy. Now this is a guy that's like lived in Southern California a little bit. He's got a little bit of the chill. He's relaxed. He's won a championship. Everybody respects him. He doesn't have to he doesn't have to really just full on. But
yeah. All that being said, he's still quite humble. I just heard from him today. He's still like his poised self. He's not going to give anything away. What he's going to do, who he's going to play, what he wants from his own life. It's just he plays all the cards really close to his chest. So I don't think I don't know. I agree with you, Justin. I think it's going to be mixed lineup, but I wouldn't be shocked if Vela comes out there at starts. I really wouldn't, especially with all the rest they have before.
Well, for me, not to interrupt, but if LAFC can get to the hour mark and then they just sub in Boanga and Vela, I think it's over. I think they're going to cause chaos. I think they're going to easily put themselves in position to score multiple goals. And once they get rolling, I got in trouble for this. I think, Justin, you were one of the people that gave me crap, but I think it was Sophie. I was talking to Sophie, and we were talking about how LAFC could have potentially gone undefeated if they didn't lose at the giant football stadium. And I'm hearing like, no. And I'm like, hey, let me be a pundit for 2 seconds, okay? Like, let me be Stephen A. Smith for just 5 seconds. I don't do it very often, so when I do it, just let me have my fun. But no, something that I really identified with, you're right, Chandrima, the roster building. LAFC have a clear philosophy. One thing that I really dug, Justin, was Steve pointing out that if mentally they don't like pass a certain threshold, they won't sign them. End of story. Over in the Galaxy, Galaxy fans looking at Douglas Costa over there, they're like, man, I wish we had sort of had that ethos a little bit when we had signed that. I don't call him useless, but I don't want to lie, but I don't want to finish the sentence. But all right, anyway, so yeah, it's challenging, but we'll see how it goes. I guess Alex, let me hit you up with what I hit Justin about. What is the one thing that the Galaxy just need to do if they're going to have any chance of performing and getting a victory?
Like I said earlier, just get the attackers going. The fact that they've been so poor on the road is just what's holding this team back from just getting any momentum at all. Chicharito just one goal in the season, right, against Austin, and that's been about it. Last game against LAFC earlier this season, he had this great chance where I think John McCarthy got a touch on it, right? You're expecting Chicharito to put that in the back of the net, and we haven't seen that guy at all this season. His technical ability has kind of regressed a lot. We're seeing him. And I think he last season was supposed to be his last season, but they had a thing in his contract where if he scored X amount of goals, he comes back for another year, right? Well, it turns out that might not be the best marker or metric to go off of. Somebody deserves an extension to their contract, but you kind of see just the regression of Chicharito this past year. The fact that he's getting fewer touches in the box every game, fewer touches in the final third. He's having to play almost in midfield in order to get the ball, and you don't want that, especially from a guy like Chicharito who makes his money in the box. He's not like a guy who's going to get on the ball often. As a striker, he's a guy who's a poacher, as a finisher. He's not going to score from outside the box. I don't think he has in his career, or at least there's not a goal that comes to mind of him scoring outside the box in a long time. But I just think this attack needs to be dynamic, and it's something we've missed all season long. Tyler Boyd's been, interesting. I think, he's a guy who's fast. He's got pace, who can have these moments. We saw that against LAFC right earlier, where he scored from 36 yards out. Right, I was shocked he even took that shot, and it went in. But I just am expecting something from him in this game. If the Galaxy are going to come out and be with the victory, Samuel Grandsir at the playoff game, very influential. Getting out wide, scoring a goal. Causing chaos on that back line. Tyler Boyd needs to replicate that at BMO Stadium. So I think this is the perfect time for the Galaxy attack to reawaken. With the opponent, with the atmosphere that's going to be there, with what's at stake, with this being the Galaxy's biggest game of the season, everything needs to be put on the line, and you need to see everyone in that attack just click.
Well said, Alex. Well, it's 7 o'clock. Before we go, let's do a few comments. Golden Boot winner Andy Diosa. Let's see. Efra versus Duenas tomorrow. Yeah. That's a good one, Andy. Who knows, man? Maybe Efra will have his coming out party tomorrow. Maybe he'll have a hat trick of assists and goals. Imagine that. You never know. It's
a miracle if that happens.
Dude, but it'd be fun to watch, wouldn't it? All right. One final question before I let all you fine people go. The question is, El Trafico. This was the greatest rivalry until we had many, many, many more of them. And, Justin, it's your first time. I'll let you go first, Alex, and then Chandrima to end. Is El Trafico getting kind of stale?
A little bit. I think that when you have so many these games, is that they only come once in a while. That they only come, once, twice, maybe 3 times a season. But when you have, what are we going to have, 5 or 6 of them this season at least? It gets a little bit exciting each time. And so, yeah, I think it takes from the excitement the more you have it.
Yeah, I agree with Justin there. One rivalry I can think of that's kind of going through this is in Scotland with Rangers and Celtic, right? It feels like almost every other month they're like playing each other. Again, MLS is just trying to milk this rivalry. Let's be honest. Obviously, this gets attention, this gets views. Everybody wants to watch this game, but when you milk it, it just kind of feels like, not that it's losing its value, but you're just seeing it so much where it just feels the specialness of kind of waking up on the game day where you know you're going to play your rival, right? I remember during the pandemic year, right, 2020, they maybe played 5-6 times, and like Justin said, they're probably gonna play 5-6 times again, whether that's in the league, maybe I'll get it, maybe MLS playoffs, maybe on that. I had to say that many times. Leagues Cup, maybe. Again, I'm just not that I'm tired of this game, but I just want this game to feel like this is a once or twice a year type thing where everybody gets around for it, and there's just an aura around this game that there was those first 2 years when this rivalry went on. Because now it just feels like you're just ready for it. Like, just give me the next one, right? Instead of wow, I cannot wait to see what happens next season. Because I feel like that aura is kind of just disappearing bit by bit. And again, I don't want to I'm gonna just blame MLS. They're just forcing this game too many times, and I mean, we're supposed to have this game twice in the first 13 weeks of the season. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yep.
Okay,
Chandrima.
you're gonna make me say. Okay, so three things. Okay, one. What about baseball rivalries? I mean, do the Giants and the Dodgers get sick and tired of each other? Because they're at it like how many times? I mean, I lose count. It's irritating to me. But I have fun every time I go as a fan. Every time. It has never taken away from my enjoyment of it. So I do think it's possible to make it fun and entertaining for the supporters of both sides. I had to be the other side of this. And what's missing is like we're missing the Zlatan. We're missing the the part. We're
Exactly.
missing God, Chicharito was supposed to be that guy. I was like, yes, yes, Vela versus Chicharito. I've waited so long, and it's just yeah, nothing, nothing.
Well,
Like
well,
that. I mean, it's not MLS's fault necessarily. I'm going to blame the Galaxy on this one for not holding up their end of the bargain.
no, you're right. Chandrima's right because I mean I had my list. The first thing was the complete I mean, literally, LAFC right here, Galaxy all the way down here. When the two teams are that far apart in class and form and talent, that doesn't help. Again, Zlatan was like the greatest villain you could possibly have for like a rivalry for an El Trafico like that. And then it's like you have Javi and then Vela, and they're like all buddies, and it doesn't count. Like it's not the same thing, and so. Yeah, and then on top of that, yeah, they play each other a million times a year, and that's annoying because Alex is right. It is MLS's fault. You're on notice, Don Garber. Please, let's just get it back to 2 games a year. Have them like towards the tail end of the year. Let the fans have their like 1 week of just barking at each other and sharing memes and doing dumb shit, and then we'll all be happy. All right, I think I've exhausted my capabilities for tonight, so. We're all going to take off. Chandrima, thank you so much for hopping on. And then my name is Mike Gray. I am the Galaxy and the LAFC columnist for the Striker. To my left is Alex Ruiz. He is the LA Galaxy beat writer for the Striker. And then right below him is Justin Ruderman, who is our LAFC beat writer for the Striker. You'll read all our articles soon. Take it easy, everybody. Have a good night. God bless. See you at the stadium.